ThinkorSwim contains a hidden secret which makes it the most powerful free trading software in the world. As I'm sure you know by now, you can add studies to your chart that exist natively within ThinkorSwim. For example, I want to see the RSI plotted on my chart. I simply double click on it. It goes to the lower section. I now have the relative strength index plotted onto my chart. However, did you also know that ThinkorSwim allows you to create your own custom studies? For example, this is a dot plot indicator that I coded myself that I can now have plotted onto my charts. And to take it even a huge step forward, it's not only custom studies. You can also code in custom trade strategies as well as custom scanners and scan columns. Extremely powerful stuff. And in today's video, I'm going to teach you how to do it. I'm going to teach you the basics of creating your own custom codes within ThinkorSwim, as well as teach you how to import codes you may come across online. Let's start with learning how to import codes you may come across, because this is going to open up basically unlimited numbers of possibilities for you. And we're going to start on my website, daytradingstrategies.net, because it is, of course, the best. I'm going to navigate to our codes, navigate into the ThinkorSwim section where I have published over 80 of my own custom strategies, scanners, and studies. If I click into studies here, ThinkorSwim has this really awesome feature where they can integrate the custom codes into share links. Now, these are like URLs, and you can navigate to these URLs, but they don't really do a lot for you. Instead, what you do is you copy this URL, and back within your ThinkorSwim, you're going to navigate to Setup in the top right, Open Shared Item, Paste, Preview, and Import. Once you do that, this is called my DTS Bollinger Band study. I'm going to come into my studies, of course, look up DTS Bollinger Break, as that is what is actually called. And I now, with just a few clicks, have that study imported into my chart. And as forementioned, I also offer strategies and scanners on my website, which all contain the same sort of share link, and they can all be found in their respective areas. For example, if I come into Edit Studies, but now hop over to Strategies, if I type in DTS, these are all of my strategies you can import. Sorry, you can't see that. These are all the strategies you can import from my site. You would once again just simply double click this. It'll add it to your chart. If I were to hop over to my scan tab, if I go to this middle column here, load scan query, this kind of lists them out in alphabetical order, but these DTSs, these are all the scan queries from my site, and that's how you would find them after you import them. So of course, obviously, I'm going to shield my site as this is my business. You can navigate to daytradingstrategies.net, linked in the description down below. Click on our codes, get access to all 80 of my published codes, and import them all into your software today. But also, you can just search the web for ThinkorSwim codes, and maybe you want to be a little careful. I can't vouch for any of the other codes out there, but you will come across some pretty useful stuff doing that as well. So check out daytradingstrategies.net. But at this point in the video already, you now know how you can import other people's codes into your ThinkorSwim. But now let's make you self-sufficient. Let's teach you how to fish. Let's teach you how to write some of your own codes. And if you've never even seen a line of code before, I don't want you to be daunted by me saying that. This stuff is not that difficult, and I'm a great teacher. I got you. We'll do all this step by step together. So what you're going to do, you're going to go to your Edit Studies modal, just as you would normally do to add a study to your chart, but you're going to hit this fun little Create button down here. And it matters whether you are under the Studies or the Strategies subtab, because if I'm under Strategies and hit Create, it's going to pop up the Create Strategies modal, but if I'm under Studies and hit Create, it's going to pop up the new study modal. And within this modal, we already have a nice predefined example line of code that we can begin talking about. I'm going to throw some coding keywords at you to help define what this line of code is doing. declaring a variable, initializing that variable with a value. Let's say it again. Declaring variable, initializing value. Say it with me. Say it out loud. Declaring variable, initializing with value. Congratulations, you now understand the fundamentals of coding. This is basically like learning what nouns and verbs are in English. You now have the foundational building blocks required to build code. Working backwards, all you're doing is you're storing this value inside of this name and you're telling the machine what to do with it. This name can be whatever you please. It could be Scooby-Dooby-Doo for all I care. You can name your variables whatever you would like. This declaration, there are 3 separate keywords within ThinkorSwim. Plot means that, maybe obviously, it is going to plot this value on your chart. If I run this code, you will see a line plotted on my chart at the close of every single candle. Because what's the value that we initialized our Scooby-Dooby-Doo variable as? We initialized it as close. And since we have this as plot, it is plotting this on the chart. The second keyword is define. This just simply means to store. Now, if I were to run this code, you'll notice it goes away because it's not plotting anymore. So it's not going to show up on the chart. It's simply to store, to use later within the code, or you could set it up as an input. If you set it up as an input, what that does, if I click into the cog, it's actually, my thing's broken right now because I have nothing plotted. Let me just do this as well. Let me create a plot. If I set this up as an input, sorry, you can't see. If I set this up as an input, now when I come into my now working code, it just needed a plot. It gets mad at you if there's nothing plotted. It's like, what's the point? Why would I run this? Now, if I come into my cog here, I now have an input variable of Scooby-Dooby-Doo that I can change. And since I set this equal to a price constant, which we'll maybe talk about that later, but whatever value type you set it to is the value type dropdown that you get to choose from within this variable. If all of that was like a little confusing, don't worry. Just know that there are 3 different types of keywords you can use for declaration: plot, input, and define. Plot shows it on the chart. Input shows it in your input variables. Define just stores it for later use in the code. Say you're a moving average crossover trader and you're like, Trey, I'm a little annoyed every time I want to load up a chart and look at a trade and analyze it. I have to load 2 simple moving averages on my chart. Then I have to go in and I have to change their length parameters. Let's say we use 50 and 200, and I have to change the color of one so they stand out. It's just a lot of clicking. It's just a lot of extra work. Let's make a custom study code that automatically plots these 2 lines. So you just have to turn on that study. These 2 lines will be plotted in different colors every single time. Saves you a lot of clicks, saves you a lot of headache down the road. So if we first off get rid of, actually, let's not get rid of these because I'm going to come back and talk about this in just a second. Actually, let's not even come back to it. I want you to take note of the name of this study right now. Simple Moving AVG. Notice how it is named natively within ThinkorSwim. Remember, these are native within ThinkorSwim studies. That's why their scroll has a little lock next to it. You can still click on this and you can see the source code of the study. But since it has that lock, I can't edit it. It won't let me edit anything. But this is a source code native to ThinkorSwim called Simple Moving AVG. So, since we know that ThinkorSwim refers to its simple moving average study as Simple Moving AVG, we now know the name of the function that we need to call into our value of our variable. I want to plot a variable and I want to plot 2 simple moving averages, right? So we're going to create 2 separate variables and we're going to give them 2 separate simple moving averages. So remember that name, Simple Moving AVG. Now, this is a function. Functions need parameters. Functions are basically calculations. Think of, x plus x. That is a sum function. It needs to accept parameters. It needs to know what to put on either side of the plus sign, else nothing can happen, right? So to do that and to let the machine know that you're utilizing a function, you need to do open and close parentheses. Notice that makes all the errors go away because now the machine knows, hey, this is a function, it's accepting parameters, and not even having anything in these parentheses throws no errors. Because what is going to happen when you have nothing inside of these parentheses is that the default parameters are going to be automatically filled in here. What I mean by default parameters, let me add another simple moving average function. As I add this, you'll notice simple moving AVG parameter close 90 no close parameter or close parentheses, sorry, parameter parentheses. I'm going to do that multiple times in this video. Just work with me. Sorry. I'm better at talking computer language than I am English. Those are your default parameters. So that is what this code is going to throw. It's going to throw a moving average based off of the closing price over the last 9 bars. So if I were to come in and turn everything else off now and just run our study, it is throwing a 9 length simple moving average based off of the closing length out of the last 9 bars. But of course, as our simple moving average crossover trader wants to see, we want to see 50 and 200 length simple moving averages. So we need to change the length parameter to either 50 or 200 on this first one. So to change the length parameter, I'm going to type in the name of the parameter being length, and we know that's the name of the parameter because that's what it says in the input variables of the simple moving average study. Then we're going to set that length equal to 50. Nice. Now we can go ahead. Sorry, I think you could see that over my head, but let me make sure you can see everything. Now let's go ahead and plot another variable. Just going to name it Y so it's easy. I'm going to type out once again, simple moving AVG. Going to name this one, or sorry, give this one a length parameter set equal to 200. As I apply this, as I run it on the charts, you are now seeing a 50 and a 200 simple moving average. They are by default plotted in different colors. Now we have one study that whenever we want to analyze a new chart, we can simply turn on this study. And if we wanted to make this study like even 100 times more useful, I'll teach you a neat little coding best practice here. At the top of my code, I'm going to now enter some input variables. I'm going to name the first one short MA length. I'm going to set this one equal to 50. I'm going to enter another input variable. Remember, using the keyword input here rather than the keyword plot. I'm going to do long MA length, set that equal to 200. What did we do? Declared variables, initialize them with values. Now, in our plots down here, rather than hard coding in the lengths, I'm going to set them equal to these input variables. So our simple moving average that we want to be the 50 length for right now, setting it equal to the short MA length for our 200, going to be the long MA length. You see how that works? When you define variables, you can call that value later within your code. It has to be later. If I were to try to do this, if this looks like the same code, right? The computer should have all the same information, but computers do actually, like a book, read code top down. So since it hasn't seen these input variables yet, it's throwing you errors, right? So you have to have the variables you would like to reference be above where they are referenced in the code. Anyway, little coding best practice tip there for you. But now, remember what we talked about with input variables. If I click into the settings cog of this study, now say, well, what if I want to look at a 9 and a 20 moving average instead? Bang, that auto loads in for you. Okay, well now what if I want to look at 100 and a 250 instead? Load those in, bang, they now auto load for you. So now you have a study that is automatically plotting 2 simple moving averages on your charts in different colors, and you have a way that you can very quickly adjust the values of those moving averages. So I'm not going to keep going down the rabbit hole of studies because I still want to talk about strategies and scanners in this video too. But what I really want you to take from this first section of this video is that you now understand how to declare variables and initialize them with values, right? And you now know how to call the study function of any existing study in ThinkorSwim. Say you wanted to use this ADX study here. I'm not even sure what this does, but you now know the name of this study, of this function, is ADX. And you know it accepts two parameters of length and average type. So you could call this ADX study into your study code and you could adjust its parameters. You can do this with any combination of codes that you would like. You really have most of the information you need to build really any custom study. Now, let's go ahead and let's hop into the strategies subtab of the edit studies and strategies modal. And now let's hit create. You will notice now we are seeing new strategy, obviously, rather than new study. And we also have a different default line of code here. I have already gone and copied the same exact code we just built that study with, because now we're going to build the moving average crossover trade strategy. But first, we need to understand this add order function. The first and most obvious thing you might notice here with this is, Trey, this isn't initialized as a value within a variable, right? This doesn't say like define x equals add order. And that's because this isn't a value function, right? This isn't like a study function that is pre-existing that you are referencing within your code. No, this is what is called an action function. Action functions are much trickier than study functions because there's no place natively within ThinkorSwim to reference the name of the function and the list of parameters like we went over with studies. That's where this beautiful website that is the ThinkorSwim Learning Center comes in. This is completely free, provided by ThinkorSwim themselves, and it gives you a list of every single function in ThinkScript. In the ThinkorSwim coding language, obviously, this gives you the name of the function and a full breakdown of the input parameters accepted by the function. The first parameter of the add order function is order type. And you'll see this value here is referenced as order type dot by auto. This is called dot notation. And without diving into it too much, I'm trying to keep this as high level as possible for beginner coders. It's because this by auto is a constant that is not natively stored within ThinkorSwim. It is rather stored within the order type data structure, within the order type data set. So you have to reference that utilizing dot notation so that the machine knows, okay, I should go find the by auto constant in the order type data set. Does that make no sense? Don't worry about it. If you just understand that constants need to utilize dot notation, and actually, if I pull back over quickly the ThinkorSwim Learning Center, it does a very good job of first off showcasing that, hey, this parameter is using dot notation. And whenever there is constants like this, like wherever there is a data set that is storing constants, there are hyperlinks, and it shows you all the constants stored within that data type. So once again, as always, reference the ThinkorSwim Learning Center. It's an awesome website. I've been coding within ThinkorSwim for 4 years. I got a degree in computer science 9 years ago. I still reference the ThinkorSwim Learning Center almost every single day. You're not expected to memorize all this stuff. You're not expected to memorize every function name and its entire list of parameters. You will need the ThinkorSwim Learning Center, right? So what I'm going to do, instead of by auto, I'm going to set mine to by to open. This is going to be a long only strategy. I don't also want to take shorts. And essentially where you use buy and sell auto is if you want strategies that do both. Because what buy auto and what sell auto is going to do is it's going to either obviously buy or sell if that condition is true, turning the sell into a short open if that happens first, right? And then turning the buy into a cover then if it happens second. We don't want that to happen. We just want a long. So I'm going to use buy to open. And in my next add order, I'm going to use sell to close. Anyway, the second parameter in the add order function is condition. So what we need to do at this point, actually, we haven't really done this yet, is we need to define some condition. So let's go do that first. So let's give ourselves some room to work here, and we're going to use our third declaration keyword because we don't need this value to be plotted anywhere on the chart, and we don't need to reference it as an input variable anymore. We just need to call these variables within our add order functions, right? So they just need to be defined. Let's go ahead and define a buy, and our buy is going to be when our Scooby-Dooby-Doo variable, which has become our fun name for our shorter MA length, crosses above Y. When the short MA length crosses above the slower MA length, that is going to be our buy condition. We just used a little bit of an expression here. You could also just say greater than. You could say greater than, less than, equals to, or you can say crosses above or crosses below. Those are all comparative expressions. I'm going to go with crosses above rather than just greater than, because now this will only return true on the candle that cross actually happens, rather than just, every time, every single bar that the slower MA is above the faster MA. Let's go ahead and define our sell as the exact opposite, right? When our Scooby-Dooby-Doo short, I laugh every time I say it, sorry, crosses below now our longer moving average. Now for our second parameter in the add order function, starts becoming a tongue twister kind of test for me. We are going to reference our condition parameter as the keyword variable of buy, which we obviously just initialized with the value of our moving average crossover. Now, let's go ahead and add another add order function in with the order type of sell to close. By the way, caps doesn't matter. It's just I'm a little OCD. I needed it to match my previous order type there. You can capitalize it however you want, but I'm going to set this condition, of course, equal to our sell variable, which we declared as a define and initialized with the value of the faster MA crossing below the slower MA. If I now hit OK, first off, I'm going to turn off our study because as I hit apply, you'll notice that the moving averages are still plotted within the strategy because we still have them set up as plots. So yes, you can plot conditions from within strategies as well. And now you'll also notice orders being placed on the charts where the moving average crossovers are happening as expected. There's a lot more you can do with strategies within the add order function, but for a very high level course, and what are we? We're like 23 minutes into this video. The fact that you can now get orders showing up on a chart based off of any study setup you would like to see, as you now know how to call those studies and how to use conditional expressions to compare them against one another, is pretty damn good. So to keep this too high level, let's go ahead and move on. Done with strategies now. Let's go talk about building custom scanners. So I've got a couple stock filters that I run on just about every single one of my scanners. First, minimum closing price must be $1. Second, there must be a minimum market cap. This just helps to keep the in a market cap riffraff off of my scanner. But where the real magic happens with scanner customization, go to add filters, and instead of a stock filter, you're going to now add a study filter. And within this study filter, you can click on this pencil to edit, and you can hop into this ThinkScript editor, and we can begin to utilize ThinkScript to build out custom scan conditions. We, of course, now have a trade strategy where we are looking to enter when the 50 simple moving average crosses above the 200. So let's build that scan filter, right? And listen, I don't even really know why. Someone smarter than me on the compiling side of code might be able to answer in the comments down below, but the rules aren't exactly the same in this modal of coding. You don't have to here, and you notice by the example line of code, you don't have to declare your study functions within variables here. You can simply type them out. You don't even have to end your line of code with a semicolon, which I don't know if I've mentioned that yet, but if you go back and watch any of the lines of code we've made in this video, every line of code normally must end with a semicolon. Here, you can just write out the function. So I'm just going to write out simple moving at AVG, length equals 50, crosses above simple moving AVG, length. I tried to look at the camera and type. That was a mistake. Length equals 200. This should now return us, if I hit OK and scan, give it a second here, this should now return us stocks where the 50 moving average is currently on the day. Remember, since we are utilizing crosses above, it is on the day. Today, the 50 moving average crossed above the 200. Our first stock here, okay, it's got NA volume, so I guess I should add another stock filter with volume and make sure there's at least one share of volume, get a lot of the NA riffraff off. But I saw Gap as the first real stock on the scanner. If I load up the Gap daily chart, in fact, today we did just get the 50 crossing above the 200. Hop back into the scanner. The next one is MAPS, M-A-P-S. Go look at that. In fact, we did today get the 50 simple moving average crossing above the 200. So now, with all this information that you have learned, what you do, you come in, and I actually forgot to mention this when talking about the strategy, but you turn on the floating P&L study, which is a study native within ThinkorSwim. This is not something custom that I have built. This shows you the P&L of every single trade of your strategy. You test this across multiple different stocks, across multiple different sectors. The way I really like to do it is by going through the ABCs of stocks. A, B, C, D. I think this gives you a really nice sub-selection of randomized stocks and sectors in the stock market to see how your strategy is performing. Also, what I do and what you're going to have access to once you sign up to the site is I turn on my DTS backtest data here. This provides me with tons of more information, more than just the floating P&L does. Whoops. So if I'm now going through, E, F, G, I can see with my strategy, the P&L, the win percentage, the average trade, the max drawdown, etc., etc. I could come in and I could say, hey, maybe the 50 and 200 doesn't look great. Let's try the 50 and the 100 instead. I can look at this test. I can adjust the variables over and over and over. This is how you are now automating your testing and optimization of building a strategy. Because look at all the trades. Just continue to go through the chart here. Look at all the trades that we are getting to look at. Imagine you weren't utilizing code. Imagine you had to go through and find all these trade entrances and exits by hand, write them down, perform the calculations yourself over and over and over again. Then imagine you go, okay, that didn't work that well. Let's try something else. You would have to go back through, find all the trade entrances again. This saves you, codifying your trading in this way will save you weeks, if not months of time for every single strategy that you build. And I'm not joking because I've done it the manual way. Codifying your trading is so important for building perfectly optimized trading strategies. So obviously what you got in today's video was a pretty quick and high-level tutorial on how to code study strategies and scanners within ThinkorSwim. Very important, very, very powerful stuff. Over on my website, daytradingstrategies.net, I do also have a course. 10 chapters, 39 sections. Every single section comes with a video lesson and a text lesson, and you're going to get much more detailed information on how to build scanners, studies, strategies, custom scan columns, conditional orders, automated alerts, etc., etc., etc. within the course. So navigate to daytradingstrategies.net, link in the description down below. Click on course, get signed up for that. Or once again, if you would just like to access what I've already published, don't care about learning how to do it yourself, you can go to our codes, one price there, get you access to all 80 plus codes that I have already published. Like the video if you learned something, subscribe if you would like to learn more. With all that being said, I'll catch you all in the next one.